No regrets. Please bow your heads for the invocation. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to serve the town of Apex. Guide us in our decisions to make what is best for the town and our residents. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Diane, do we have any items of information today?
We do. So I just wanted to let you know that our website for the Western Big Branch Area Plan has been updated. It's here on the screen. You can also navigate just from the town's main website, www.apexnc.org. And we have frequently asked questions posted. So take a look at that and more to come.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, let's talk about public comment. And the purpose of public comment is to speak on items that do not appear on the agenda under public hearings. Any members of the public wishing to speak on the public hearing items can be called at the appropriate time later in this agenda. If you've not already done so, please sign in my right, your left. Public comment period is the opportunity for the public to express concerns or opinions, but is not intended to be a question and answer session. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak on such items, and at that time I'll ask you to wrap up your comments. If there's a larger group to speak, we ask that you have one member represent the group and limit the comments to 9 minutes and nothing be repetitive. So with that, I'll open up the public comment. Do we have anyone? Please come forward.
Do we give our name and address like the other meetings?
Please.
Okay. Elizabeth Rastead, 3113 Friendship Road. I did put my phone number and my email address on the sign-up sheet since I was the only one, although I think most people here have my contact info anyways. So I live on Friendship Road. I'm in the ETJ, but the other half of Friendship Road going towards Holly Springs is Wake County. And I wanted to set up a meeting, at least with the Wake County representative and the ETJ representative, to share what we have been up to. We've been having conversations with Holly Springs. We also had Wake County Commissioner Cheryl Stallings, who you'll remember was a town council member, and just to bring you up to speed what we are doing with the various programs that are available through Wake County. So if you could reach out to me, schedule something. I didn't want to schedule like on the big email. Not everybody needs to share a schedule. So my contact info is there if you don't mind reaching out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, I will close the public comment. And we will move on then to item 1, the minutes from September. Guessing everyone has read them already. Any concerns or corrections? How about a possible motion to approve said minutes?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Alyssa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Tina. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? All right, minutes pass unanimously. I believe now we have item 1 with Katie Schwing. Hello, Katie.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. My name is Katie Schwing. I have not been before you before, so I'll just give a brief introduction. My official title with the town is Senior Planner, Long Range Transit, but you'll probably just know me as the Transit Planner for the town. So I'll be presenting the item before you today, which is a proposed transit plan map amendment in support of Go Apex Route 1 additional routing. So I'm going to get right into the map that was shown as figure 1 in your staff report. So this is actually kind of a zoomed in version of the transit plan map that you can find on our webpage, which was actually last updated in February. The addition is kind of hard to see on this map, but it is a little bit of additional routing. That's the green and white stripe, which is for future Go Apex Route 1. And it comes off of North Mason Street into the Town Hall campus in order to go to the main entrance of the Senior Center. Our staff made an inset diagram that's a lot easier to see and provides a little bit more context as to why this change is before you. So you can see on the diagram the community center, the senior center, and the town hall. And then you can also see the Mason Street Municipal Building, which is currently under construction. The green and white striped line is what the proposed amendment is to add to the map. It goes all the way into the driveway, through the loop and the porte cochere by the senior center main entrance, and comes back out to North Mason Street. The dark green line is the existing Go Apex Route 1 routing that is on the transit plan map. And you will also see a light green line, which is actually not part of the official transit plan map. This is showing temporary routing that the route currently travels, because our permanent layover location is actually at the Mason Street Municipal Building, which is under construction. And the stop that is there is actually closed right now due to the construction. You might be wondering why we're proposing this amendment. This is actually a result of public feedback that we've received since starting service last year on Go Apex Route 1. And that has been through surveys or informal comments we've received at in-person events at the senior center and around town to provide a stop closer to the senior center. The transit plan map itself does not show the individual bus stops, but the intent, if this is approved, is to place a bus stop at the entrance to the senior center. As I mentioned before, this temporary routing through the town hall campus that's shown in light green is intended to go away when the Mason Street Municipal Building is complete in spring of 2024. We have vetted this through several other departments in town. We've been working with the Parks, Rec, and Cultural Resources Department. They're aware of it and supportive of it, as is the Transportation Infrastructure and Development Department. And we have also discussed this informally with our Transit Advisory Committee for the town. They meet quarterly, and their next meeting is actually this coming Wednesday, the 11th, where we'll also be requesting a recommendation from them for the council meeting on October 24th for this proposed amendment. We've also received support from the Transit Advisory Committee on this proposed change, and they're anxious to see it happen. So I guess with that, are there any questions about this proposed change?
Any questions, please?
So once the Mason Street Municipal Building is complete, that light green line will just be a straight. Is that still gonna turn onto Hunter Street, or is it just gonna go straight through that intersection?
Yeah, it will not turn onto Hunter Street anymore. We have a temporary bus stop there, which is, you can kind of see in the little dip. But that will go away when the Mason Street Municipal Building opens. There's an off-street layover location for the bus, as well as a bus stop in front of the building.
Thank you. And keep me honest, we don't need a public comment, correct?
Nope, nobody signed up for it.
All right,
But you need to open it still.
so need to open it. All right. I'll open the public comment section. Anyone to speak on this item? All right, closing that item. Bring it back to the board for discussion and possible motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. I think a drop off at the senior center is a great idea.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Keith and a second. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposing? All right, passes unanimously. Item number 2, Jenna, possible motion regarding amendments to the transportation plan.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'll be presenting for public hearing number 2, a proposed amendment to the thoroughfare and collector street plan map along a section of Shiflin Road. So the section of Shiflin Road that we're looking at is between US 1 and then the future intersection with the Apex Peakway. And on this map, the green lines show major collector roads on the thoroughfare and collector street plan map, and the pink lines show minor collectors. And the proposed amendment is to upgrade that section between the Peakway and US 1 along Shiflin Road from a minor collector to a major collector. And the major collector designation is appropriate to consider for this section of Shiflin Road, as there are limited crossing opportunities from the thoroughfare over US 1. And in this case, it would be connecting Apex Peakway across US 1 in the future. Additionally, the upgrade from a minor collector to a major collector will allow this section of Shiflin Road to accommodate bicycle lanes. And there are I'll point out some similarities and some differences between major collectors and minor collectors. So they both require the same amount of right-of-way, but the roadway is wider along a major collector, and then residential driveways are not allowed along a major collector, but they are along a minor collector. So any questions on this proposed amendment? Okay. Yes.
So that'll be connecting Shiflin eventually to Lufkin Road over 1? Okay.
Yeah, there's no funded project to construct this, but yeah, that's the plan to connect.
Will the construction of James Street happen the same time? The widening of the,
Winding of Jane at the same time
at
as,
the same time?
well, there's not a funded project for either of those right now. So right now, James Street is shown as a 2-lane urban thoroughfare, and that's what it is. And then we have a proposed realignment to the south, but there's not a funded project for that at this time.
Any other questions for Jenna?
The future collector there on the Peakway, is that a part of this as well, or is it just, is there anything that's going to happen with this future collector as part of this?
The Energy Drive piece,
From Energy Drive back to Shiflin Road?
no, that one's a major collector right now, and there's no, the segment you're referring to?
Yeah, so nothing will happen in sync with what you're proposing with Shiflin.
Right, we're not proposing to change the designation of energy, keep that one as a major collector. And this, I didn't mention, this kind of ties into the next proposed amendments to the bike lanes.
Do we need to hear all of them at once, or do you need to vote on each one individually?
Us individually, yeah.
Any other questions for Jenna? Jenna? I'll open up the public comment section here. Anyone care to speak? All right, I will close the public comment section, bring it back to the board for discussion and possible motion.
I will make a motion to approve the transportation plan amendments as presented.
I have a motion by Tina. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Melissa. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 3, Jenna's going to talk to us about public hearing and possible motion regarding amendments to the bicycle and pedestrian system plan.
Okay, so here proposed item number 3, we're looking at proposed amendments to the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map to add bicycle lanes along a number of major collectors. And just to kind of open this up, my plan is not to go into the details of all the proposed locations where bicycle lanes are proposed to be added, rather to give an overview of the background and the methodology that was used to develop the recommendations. But at the end, I have a PDF pulled up if there's any specific roadway you'd like to take a closer look at, if you have any questions about. So some background information. So the major collectors on the adopted transportation plan were reviewed for the addition of either bicycle lanes or shared lane markings in order to expand the town's bicycle network. And Table 1 in the legal ad and in your staff report includes a list of all the proposed amendments. And that first column in the table has a number, and that number corresponds with the map that's included on the last page of the staff report, and there's a link to it on the legal ad. So the initial considerations for these for the proposed amendments is that the current major collector standard, which is shown at the bottom of the screen, that standard specification can accommodate 4 feet wide bicycle lanes without any additional widening or right-of-way per the current standard. And the proposed amendments would guide how existing and future roadways that are already included on the adopted transportation plan would be striped and signed to accommodate cyclists. So there's no proposed change to the standard. Currently, with the current design, 2 travel lanes and 2 bike lanes can fit on the major collector. So a number of elements were considered when reviewing all the major collectors for the potential addition of bike lanes and in some cases shared lane markings. And these elements are listed here. So the roadway status, whether it's a current road or an existing roadway or future, or if it's under construction, as well as the roadway width and the presence of either a curb and gutter or a shoulder and ditch section along the collector, and the presence of striping per the major collector standard as shown on the previous slide, and the presence of either planned or existing side path along the roadway or a parallel bicycle facility such as a greenway running north or south of that collector, and whether or not a bicycle or pedestrian crash has occurred along that roadway. Additionally, we looked at the presence of on-street parking along the collector and whether or not the land uses along and adjacent to the collector are supportive of a bicycle lane. And then it also looked at proposed development and rezoning cases, and then whether or not there's an existing or future bus route on our transit plan along that collector. And then, so this is a zoomed out look. If there's anything you want to take a look at, I have a PDF of the proposed amendments. Any questions? Let me take a step back. So planning staff support approval of this, and it was also vetted by police, parks and recreation, and transportation and infrastructure development.
Any questions for Jenna?
Who would actually do the striping and, I mean, the expansion? Some of these roads don't already have that shoulder now, right? So we're talking about if these roads are constructed, that's what the width's going to be as a major collector. It's going to be able to have the bicycle lanes. Who actually is responsible for? Is that a DOT thing? If we put this on paper, is that something they provide, or is this a town thing that we're requesting?
It would, so kind of a combination. Most of the collectors are town roads, so it would either be private development if it's upgraded to the major collector as part of a development project, or if we already have the curb and gutter in place and that's wide enough, the town could go in and stripe it. And in the future, if there's a funded project to upgrade the major collector, it could be striped at that time. So there are multiple ways that it can be, funded and constructed. But there's not a plan right now to go in and widen any of the roads to accommodate these bike lanes right now. It's whether looking at either if we could stripe them based on existing, or if it could be added in the future when there is a funded project to widen.
I was excited to see it for that exact reason, that we're seeing construction in various parts and there's upgrade, and so to have this on paper as when a project comes before us that this would happen, I was really excited to see this coming before us. So thank you.
Much easier to build it in now than retrofit it later.
Yes.
Exactly.
As a cyclist, I'm excited. I'm not showing it, but I'm very excited.
Excuse my ignorance, but is there anything that says if there is a bicycle lane that the bicyclist must stay in that lane?
Not at all. They can use the right of
Because
way.
I think that sometimes is the case, even when there are bicycle lanes. I see them, riding in traffic. It's like, well, there's a lane that was dedicated just for you, tax dollars spent just for your safety, and it's not being used. So it'd be nice if that was somehow kind of, if we're going to provide it, that it's used. If we're gonna stripe it, if we're gonna put money towards it, let's, make them use it for everyone's safety,
I see what you're saying. I think, yeah, but people can use it. I think the idea is if it's there, more people will. But I think some people will choose to.
We're trying to encourage, but we can't police it. I understand.
Any other questions for John? Thank you, John. I will open up public comment section. Is anyone here to speak on that topic? All right, go forward.
Again, Elizabeth Ray Stitt, 3113 Friendship Road. I'm going to ask if we can take roads number 11, 12, and 13 off for tonight's discussion. These roads are within the Western Big Branch Area Plan. And when we had the open houses in August, there was a lot of conversation of where the community wanted to be involved. And there's a perception when we saw this on the agenda for tonight that, we're supposed to be participating in a plan and the town was going to present a plan back. But when you move forward with amendments like this, you're going ahead and making changes to our particular roads. And the reason why I call out those three, not only because they're in that area, and obviously this could be added to the plan when we get through the 6 to 9 month process. But if you look at the future collector road number 12, it says it's going to connect it to the bicycle lanes proposed on Pleasant Plains Road and Friendship Road. However, if you look right past it, number 13 is Pleasant Plains Road, and it has a comment that that road's not wide enough to accommodate bike lanes. And while I did not have time, I'm getting a letter from DOT who Brandon Jones, along with the mayor, went down Friendship Road because we were saying, hey, we're up for repavement sometime. Can you put bike lanes? And they were saying, no, they can't. That based on the grade of the road, they cannot extend it because they have to regrade the entire road. And so for that reason, and also for wanting my community to feel like they're involved, frankly, with this being on the agenda starting on Wednesday, all of a sudden today we have your vote, then tomorrow night is town council vote. It doesn't give time for the community to actually respond. And that's what we're trying to do. I really appreciate the planning staff doing the open house. It went a long ways. We had great participation. And there's a lot of cynics out there that we're still trying to get pulled into the participation. And something like this that gets pushed through in less than a week from Wednesday to a vote with town council on a Tuesday kind of undermines that. So I did not have time. Apologies. Jenna is great. Diane's great. They're all great. Just didn't have time because it all just happened so quickly to ask for them to pull it off. So I just ask for your consideration for those reasons, just to temporarily take it off. Thank you.
Any other speakers in public? I will close the public comment section and bring it back to the board for discussion and a possible motion.
Can we get clarification on when the town council would see this? Would it be tomorrow night or would it be their following meeting?
It was advertised for tomorrow night, and it was advertised earlier, but I understand it was only sent directly to the list that Long Range Planning has this past week, so. So the public notice was done properly, but it was not sent to the group until last week.
And for clarification, these are for, there's no funding on these roads. This is for as development driven or funds are available is when this would be implicated. Am I correct?
Right, if a development project were to come in along these roadways,
Yeah.
or if we allocated funding towards striping.
Sure. Okay.
So would this have an impact if we excuse these items? Would it impact this planning?
I think we would just need to notify town. I think my understanding is we just notify town council tomorrow of the planning board's recommendation if it were to exclude those 3.
But then no project is there yet, right? Right now, there's no funding for these projects, so whether we approve it or not doesn't really have a big impact on these items, right?
On those 3,
Yeah, because it's not moving forward.
right? But the goal, or this was kind of brought on. I can give a little backstory of why this was done. So it was brought on. There's a new transportation infrastructure development director, and he asked that we add, look at all the major collectors collectively to see if we can add bicycle lanes so that we're ready when developers come in. So the goal was to add them, to have them ready for development comes in. But I'm not aware of what along these 3 where it would need to be added.
So the only thing I would say is if Elizabeth had contacted me before today, we would have already had a discussion. And I hate to do this to Jenna, but I'm fine with taking those 3 off and having to bring them back later because I understand. And I have the same concern you did, and that's why it was sent to y'all last week. And to my knowledge, we've not heard from anyone else but you, but I don't disagree with what you said. So if you all, what numbers were they again? I didn't.
11, 12, and 13.
Oh, nope. You can't all talk at the same time because I got to write it down.
11, 12, and 13.
11, 12, and 13. Thank you. Yeah, so if that makes it easier for you all, we'll just bring those back at a later date with the bigger plan. It just means that if there's a project that comes in, they will not be required to do it.
That's my only concern with it, but I mean, I see no inconsistencies with the feedback that we've gotten so far from the new proposed land plan, small area plan, but at the same time, I completely respect processes and,
So we
having
want
a
to
new
revisit it.
plan adopted.
Will need to be revisited before the development starts, because then it'll be too late.
Right.
Well, there have been times where there's a rezoning that comes up and a transportation amendment is done prior to the rezoning.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I
quite
mean, so
often,
Yes,
I don't see that being an issue.
quite often,
agreed.
yeah.
I mean, if it's something where we know that there's wanting to happen, we could just do this prior to doing a change. I don't see any issue with it.
Diane, thank you for that clarification and for pulling it. And I think my only suggestion is that we are more careful moving forward. There's been a lot of effort put in, and we do want to be consistent. And I understand, the different departments are, not always in communication with the overall broader plan, but seeing how far we've gotten with the community outreach and having the community involved, I think it's really important that we go that extra step to make sure that things like this don't happen, because we can absolutely, if it comes up, if there's a project coming up, we can absolutely do an amendment plan beforehand that is aligned with, in alignment with this, and then it would be in full view and plenty of opportunity for the community to engage. So I encourage us to be a little more careful as we are engaging in planning around this, because I'm incredibly excited about it, and so I don't want to. I just want to be careful that we're being consistent and intentional as we're putting plans forth.
Can I make a motion to approve the amendments with the recommendation that we hold on 11, 12, and 13? Is
Sounds
that
like
the
you
best way
made
to
a
phrase
motion.
that?
Are we holding or striking them?
What I wrote was to recommend approval of all proposed amendments except number 11, 12, and 13.
That is exactly how I'd like to amend my.
I will second
We
your.
have a second from Tina. We have a motion from Melissa and a second from Tina. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Now we're on to new business. Amanda is going to talk to us about a possible motion regarding amendments to the outdoor lighting standards in the UDO.
Yes. So this is a comprehensive set of amendments that's requested by both the Apex Environmental Advisory Board and planning staff to basically modernize our lighting standards for LED lights and create additional standards. in light of the comprehensive nature of this and all the work that has to be done for staff training, updating applications, and so forth, if these amendments are adopted, the effective date would not be until January 1st, 2024. That gives us ample time to make all the updates we need to and make sure that the development community is aware of what will be coming. I did send this out, the draft out to over 40 members of the development community the same day that the agenda was posted, and have not heard any feedback since that day. A little bit of background, the EAB, the Environmental Advisory Board, created a work group of 3 members plus staff, which is Shelley Mayo. That's why she's here to back up. She did a lion's share of the work for planning on these sets of amendments. Excuse me. And so they worked for quite some time, and then in September, after we planning staff had a chance to review the EAB's proposal, we took a draft back to them with some modifications, and that's what's before you today. They basically blessed it moving forward through the process. And so before we get started, I just wanted to also clarify that these lighting standards do not apply to single-family residential properties, including townhomes. It would apply to like an amenity center and a clubhouse property in a subdivision, but not on individual residential properties. And it does not apply to street lighting within the right-of-way either. So we're talking about on private property. So the first changes are to clarify the intent and purpose of the ordinance. And it is to allow outdoor lighting that will heighten safety, security, productivity, commerce, but also minimize adverse off-site impacts, curtail light pollution, help protect wildlife and habitat, and conserve energy and resources. So it's finding that balance between environmental protection and the necessary utility of lighting. So moving on to the section 4 lighting plan, as is today, all site plans and non-residential subdivisions will have to submit a lighting plan. We're updating the standards for that. We're indicating that non-cutoff lighting is no longer allowed, is not allowed. And so that would be like the old style acorn lighting, which doesn't have the cap on the top or any internal shielding. So that would be an example of non-cutoff light. And then require that all lighting fixtures shall be high efficiency and possess LED lamp technology. We'll get into what this bug rating means in just a moment. We already require cross sections for when lighting is adjacent to residential properties, and I've put a couple images here. Basically, it shows where the proposed lighting is, the height, and adjust for the topography. Here's another example, so that you can see the intervening vegetation and adjacent residential properties, so you can see the potential impact of glare on residential properties. And so that would allow us to see if additional vegetation could be used to screen that, or if additional shielding on the light fixture itself or angle of the fixture, the lighting needs to be adjusted to avoid that off-site impact on adjacent properties. So this is just clarifying what we need to see on the plan. For our illumination standards, we're not proposing to change the overall number of foot candles, and foot candles basically the measurement of light a foot off the ground. But the only change that is proposed is pulling out the lighting that's allowed at bicycle parking, to reduce that to 3-foot candles as opposed to 5, which is that area which is supposed to be right at those vital locations at doorways, service areas, ATMs. Whenever you see an image that has this black line through it, that means it's proposed to be struck. We're striking images that are no longer relevant. And we are also updating all images to strike references to wattage, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So for mounting heights, you'll see that the standards, that the height does not change. We are adding language that reflects, this is similar to another place in the ordinance, but we're moving the standard that house side shields are required based on those cross sections that I just talked about, to help avoid glare produced by lamps. In the location standard, there's a current standard that says, in general, poles should be kept 20 feet away from the trunk of large trees and 10 from small trees, but should and in general is not very good language for ordinance standards. And so we're proposing to reword that with still leaving some flexibility that poles shall be kept that distance, except where cases where the planning director determines that it's not reasonable or practical. So we have standards that require a certain number of trees to be planted in parking lots to provide shading, reduce the heat island effect, and also for aesthetic purposes. And sometimes citing those poles and those trees to meet the minimum distance required is like, you know, a math problem that no one wants or can solve. So it allows a little bit of flexibility in the placement of the poles where we're trying to meet the intent of those two ordinances. For spillover and glare control, we're striking standards, proposing to strike standards related to non-cutoff lights, as we're proposing that those would no longer be allowed. And we would have a standard that reads all fixtures shall be fully shielded, full cutoff type fixtures with a concealed lamp light source, unless it's otherwise stated as allowed in this ordinance, in this section. Now for the fun part. For the BUG stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. And this image demonstrates where these three aspects of rating lights is allowed. And this is based on the luminaire classification system for outdoor luminaires from the Illuminating Engineering Society. And the rating system assigns a value between 0 and 5, with 0 being no light and 5 being basically there's no shielding or no protection. So for backlight, it's the area behind the light pole from 0 to 90 degrees that creates light trespass onto adjacent sites, especially for those poles that are at the perimeter of a site. And so we are proposing that the rating be a 3, so basically a 50% reduction in that light for fixtures located 20 feet or less from a public right-of-way, and 2 for fixtures located 20 feet from a property line of a residential use or a vacant property that's zoned for a residential use. Uplight is anything from that 90-degree plane and straight up into the sky, which the proposed rating is 0. Since all fixtures are proposed to be full cutoff, there should be no issue with meeting this requirement. And then glare is the area in the 60 to 90 degree angle from the light source. And this is what causes that glare in your eyes that's annoying when the light's too bright and it bothers your eyes. That's what this is getting at. And so the proposal is that the rating be 1, a maximum of 1 for fixtures located 20 feet or less from a public right-of-way, and 0, 20 feet or less from the residential properties. Any questions on that before we move forward? I know that's kind of a new concept. Most of us don't deal with lighting on a regular basis.
I just learned something new, thank you.
And this isn't a new concept in the lighting world. It is used in other municipalities. So it's not going to be brand new for lighting engineers or for the development community to comprehend. So with the move to LEDs, the old lighting ordinances would rate based on wattage as a measure of reducing energy and recognizing that generally a 100-watt lamp is going to give you this much lighting. Well, 100 watts for LEDs is a whole lot. As you've probably noticed on your light bulbs, they use so much less energy. So we're moving away from wattage and switching to lumens instead, which is the amount of light produced from the source. Did I say that right, Shelley? Thank you. And so our proposal for an individual fixture is 15,500 lumens, unless it's specified elsewhere. So for instance, building mounted lighting would change from 75 watts to 2,500 lumens. And fixtures for a gas station or convenience store canopies would be 11,000 lumens, and that's less, but there's more of them clustered together. So, and again, our foot candle ratings at the ground, the amount of light produced at the ground is not proposed to change. And we analyzed a lot of site plans, Shelley did, I should say, not we, and rated looked at the building mounted lighting, the wall packs, parking lot lighting, and canopy lighting. and it may be hard to see the shades of green, but for the most part, many of them fell into the numbers that we are proposing in this ordinance. It's not an exactly true like measure because some of these are metal halide or high pressure sodium type lighting, which is not LED, it's a different type of light. And so the lumen level will not correlate exactly to LED. So this table hasn't been refined to show only lights that are LED. So it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but it did give us some assurance that the numbers that we were looking at were going to be consistent with sites that at night we felt like provided a good amount of lighting that wasn't overly bright or too dim. Nothing really to change in sports and athletic field lighting except fixing the word must, should be shall. Same in private recreational facility lighting. And then our next new standard is a requirement that their lighting fixtures be equipped with controls that will automatically extinguish when it's daylight. Not all lights use this, but it's definitely an energy saver. It's a common sense feature to have. So they'd be equipped with the photoelectric or astronomic time switch or some sort of programming. The next new standard is a requirement that no later than 1 hour after the business is closed to the public, that the amount of light produced is reduced by 30%. Basically, the light dims on the site. There are some exemptions to this in this section when there's no more than 2 fixtures, so a small site. If there's a code requirement for lighting at steps, walkways, building entrances, it would not apply to those fixtures. Or motion activated lighting, recognizing it's going to go off completely after a certain amount of time. Businesses that are on a 24-hour basis, obviously that wouldn't apply. Or if there's a particular instance where the technical review committee, which is members of various departments in the town, feel like it's necessary for that lighting to stay constant for a particular reason for the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And then there's a whole section with basically some lighting definitions to ensure that this section is understandable by everyone. So that's a lot of information in a very short amount of time. I'm sure you may have some questions, and Shelley is going to help me answer them. Yes.
So this is just my brain and verbiage, and it doesn't really relate to specific amendments, but on pages 10 and 11, where it's just changing like must to shall, that really triggered me, but I'm kind of trying to figure out, like, when stuff like this changes, is this reviewed by like a lawyer or something like that? Just because like I could see like that must versus shall thing, like must as being like you have to do this, and shall I could be more ambiguous and open to litigation potentially. So is there a reason one way or another?
So in the interpretation that we've received, shall is more specific. And so it's the should that gives the iffiness. Shall is it shall be, like it has to be done. Must and shall are very similar, but we're trying to have consistency throughout the ordinance, and shall being everywhere where it's a definite requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
This is just silly formatting, but there are 2 letter L's sections.
I found that, okay. And I have fixed that in the version that's going to town council. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate those eagle eyes that notice.
We know those come back later too.
Yeah. Fortunately, that kind of change would not have, typo would not have to come back. But no, I appreciate anytime you see one of those, letting me know.
I just want to say thank you, Shelley, and Amanda. But thank you, Shelley. The effort and energy that went into this, into the EAB, just huge hats off, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
So just to share credit, the 3 members of the board who worked on this, and one of whom is no longer on the board, she couldn't make it work with her schedule anymore. They did the bulk of rewriting it. It was still a lot of work, but they did most of it. And then what I did from that point was try to kind of figure out what we can actually implement and what we can actually handle at the moment. The stuff with the bug lighting and that kind of thing, there was a lot more detail involved, and we had to kind of distill that because it's not something that the town has the capacity to implement at this point. But thank you very much. The board did a great job. They were great to work with, and it's exciting to get this done. We've been planning to make this change to lumens for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
it's kind of
This is
exciting
exciting.
that this is an option. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Questions for Amanda? Thank you.
I'm assuming this is all things that are, moving forward, but what about things where we have, car dealership or something that might not have the same lighting? And if they decide they want to add on a parking lot that was never there before.
Right, so,
that gonna play?
yeah, any developments that come in after the effective date, so any site plan or subdivision that is submitted after the effective date, or a change to an existing site, if someone wants to swap out fixtures or expand their site, they would have to comply, that portion of the site would comply with the new ordinance. They wouldn't have to change out all of their fixtures on the entire site, so any expansion, the new ordinance would apply to the expanded area.
Yeah, because I can see this being an expensive endeavor. If you own a property that has 100 lights on it, you have 5 of them burn out. And now you're not allowed to go back into.
So this does not require them to, if they have if the fixture like completely dies, they have to replace the fixture, then they would have to replace it with a fixture that could accommodate meet the new ordinance.
So conversely, if a car runs into a light pole in Costco's parking lot, they'd have to replace it with this new ordinance light as opposed to like lights.
Right, they would need to ensure that it was LED meeting these lumens, which I believe the Costco may, well, I don't want to, that was about the time. It doesn't, okay.
Otherwise known as eco-terrorism.
Yeah.
So,
Don't do that. Can I make a motion?
Please.
Have we gotten that far? Can I make a motion to approve the amendments to the outdoor lighting standards of the UDO?
I have a motion from Tina. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Stephen, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Passes unanimously.
What was the second, please?
Stephen? And I need one more motion, ladies and gentlemen, to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.